The bridge of the USS Enterprise D hummed with its familiar rhythm, the soft pulse of computer systems, the distant thrum of warp engines maintaining their steady course through the cosmos. Captain Jean-Luc Picard stood before the main view screen, hands clasped behind his back, watching stars streak past at Warp 6. They were 3 days into a routine patrol along the neutral zone, the invisible boundary between Federation space and the Romulan Star Empire. Routine, predictable, safe. Then the universe tore itself apart. "Captain!" Lieutenant Worf's voice cut through the bridge's calm. "Massive subspace distortion directly ahead. It's..." He paused, his Klingon features tightening with confusion. "It's not matching any known phenomenon." The view screen shifted, displaying a wound in space itself. Reality rippled and fractured. Colors that had no name bleeding from a dimensional tear that pulsed with violent energy. The distortion expanded, and from within its chaotic depths, something emerged. A starfighter. Small, angular, utterly alien in design. Its hull was charcoal gray, its wings bent at aggressive angles, and its cockpit glowed with an eerie red light. The craft tumbled through normal space, trailing energy that sparked and dissipated like dying embers. Behind it, the spatial rift collapsed with a flash that sent sensor readings screaming across every console. "Shields up! Red alert!" Picard commanded, his voice steady despite the unprecedented sight before him. The Enterprise's alert klaxons began their rhythmic warning. "Mr. Data, analysis!" The android's fingers flew across his console with superhuman speed. "The vessel's hull composition is unknown, Captain. Its power signature does not match any civilization in our database. I am detecting severe energy fluctuations. The craft is dying. Life support appears to be failing." "Life signs?" Picard asked. "1," Data confirmed. "Humanoid, though the readings are unusual. I am detecting extensive cybernetic augmentation. The biological components are in severe distress." Picard's jaw tightened. Whatever this vessel was, whoever piloted it, they were dying. The Prime Directive didn't apply to spacefaring civilizations, and even if it did, his conscience wouldn't allow him to watch someone suffocate in the void. "Counselor," Deanna Troy's empathic senses reached across space toward the dying craft. Her eyes widened and she gripped the armrest of her seat. "Captain, I sense pain. Incredible pain, but also..." She struggled for words. "Rage, darkness, something I've never felt before. It's like staring into an abyss." "Tractor beam, Mr. Worf. Bring them into Shuttle Bay 2. Security teams on standby. I want full quarantine protocols." The Enterprise's tractor beam seized the tumbling fighter, drawing it into the starship's vast internal hangar. Picard watched the operation through the shuttle bay's internal sensors, seeing the strange craft lowered carefully onto the deck. Its power signature flatlined, emergency lights flickered and died. "Transport the pilot directly to sick bay," Picard ordered. "Dr. Crusher, prepare for emergency treatment. We don't know what we're dealing with." In the transporter room, Chief O'Brien's fingers moved across his console. "I'm having trouble getting a lock, sir. The cybernetics are interfering with the pattern buffer. There's also some kind of energy field around the pilot that's..." He stopped, his eyes widening. "Captain, this energy signature, it's like nothing I've ever seen. It's almost as if the pilot is generating their own subspace field." "Can you transport them?" Picard asked. "I think so, but it'll be rough. The cybernetic systems might not survive the process intact." "Do it. Their life support is failing." O'Brien's hands moved with practiced precision. The transporter's distinctive whine filled the room, and on the pad, a figure began to materialize. Tall, imposing, clad entirely in black armor that reflected no light, as though it consumed illumination itself. A helmet, smooth and emotionless, with a triangular respirator grill. and from that grill came a sound that would haunt the Enterprise's crew for years to come, a mechanical breathing, slow, rhythmic, menacing. The figure collapsed to one knee, one black-gloved hand reaching out to steady itself against the transporter pad. The breathing grew labored, each mechanical cycle sounding more strained than the last. Around the armored form, the air itself seemed to shimmer with invisible pressure. "Medical team to Transporter Room 1, O'Brien said into his comm badge, unable to tear his eyes away from the kneeling figure. "And security. Definitely security." The figure's helmet lifted slightly, and though there were no visible eyes behind that dark mask, O'Brien felt the weight of an ancient, terrible gaze fall upon him, a gaze that had seen civilizations burn. Sickbay had transformed into a fortress of cautious hospitality. Dr. Beverly Crusher stood behind a level 10 force field, tricorder in hand, scanning the unconscious figure on her biobed. 2 security officers flanked the entrance, phaser rifles charged and ready. The figure's mechanical breathing filled the medical bay with its unsettling rhythm, each cycle a reminder that this was no ordinary patient. "His life support is failing," Crusher announced, studying her readings with growing concern. "The cybernetic systems are extensive. They're keeping him alive, but they're incompatible with our technology. I'm detecting massive tissue damage throughout his body. Burns, scarring, and what looks like catastrophic injuries that should have killed him decades ago." Picard entered sickbay, Riker and Data flanking him. All 3 stopped at the force field, staring at the armored figure. Even unconscious, the being radiated menace. His armor was a masterwork of technology they didn't understand. Sleek, functional, designed for war. "Can you help him?" Picard asked. "I don't know," Crusher admitted. "His cybernetics are running on an unfamiliar power source that's degrading rapidly. If I don't stabilize him in the next hour, the life support will fail completely. But Jean-Luc," she turned to face the captain, "removing this helmet could kill him. His respiratory system is entirely artificial. Without it, he can't breathe." "Then adapt," Picard said firmly. "Find a way to interface our technology with his. We have the most advanced medical facilities in the quadrant. Use them." Data approached the force field, his positronic brain processing the armored figure's design. "Captain, I have analyzed the energy field Mr. O'Brien detected. It appears to be a form of directed telekinetic force, possibly generated through an unknown organ or augmentation. The field collapsed when the subject lost consciousness, suggesting it requires active mental control." "Telekinesis?" Riker's eyebrows rose. "That's impossible." "Betazoids possess limited telekinetic abilities," Data countered. "However, this being's power appears far more developed. The residual energy signatures in the shuttle bay suggest he could manipulate objects weighing several hundred kilograms." A low, mechanical groan emerged from the figure. The helmet turned slightly, and suddenly, the eyes behind that mask ignited, twin lenses glowing a dull, menacing red. The figure's hand clenched into a fist, and across the medical bay, a tray of instruments flew off a table and clattered to the floor. "He's waking up," Crusher warned, backing away from the force field. The armored figure rose slowly, mechanically, his breathing growing stronger. He stood at full height, nearly 2 meters tall, his presence filling the room with palpable menace. His helmeted head turned, surveying the room, cataloging threats. The red lenses fixed on Picard. "Where?" The voice was deep, filtered through the respirator, each word accompanied by mechanical breathing. "Where am I?" Picard stepped forward, his diplomatic instincts overriding his caution. "I am Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation Starship Enterprise. You are in our medical facility. Your vessel was damaged, and we rescued you. We mean you no harm." The figure stood motionless for a long moment, then slowly, Deliberately, he raised one hand toward the force field. His fingers didn't touch it. They remained centimeters away. But the field itself began to shimmer, to strain as though invisible hands were pulling at its very structure. Fascinating, Data observed. He is manipulating the force field's energy matrix directly. Shields holding, Worf reported from his security console near the entrance. But he's drawing significant power. If he continues... The figure lowered his hand. The strain on the force field ceased. Federation, he said, his tone contemplative. I know no such empire. Where is the nearest Imperial outpost? There is no empire here, Picard said carefully. You've traveled far from your home. Perhaps through that spatial anomaly we detected. Can you tell us who you are? The helmeted head tilted slightly, an oddly human gesture from something that seemed so inhuman. I am Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, and Supreme Commander of the Imperial forces. I serve Emperor Palpatine, ruler of the Galactic Empire. A pause filled only with mechanical breathing. Or I did. That rift. I felt something change. The Force feels different here. Force? Picard asked. An energy field created by all living things, Vader explained, his tone suggesting he was accustomed to others not understanding. It surrounds us, penetrates us, binds the galaxy together. Those sensitive to it can manipulate reality itself. His hand rose again, and a medical scanner floated off its table, drifting through the air to hover before the force field. Like this, the scanner dropped. Vader's breathing grew labored again. He swayed slightly, catching himself on the biobed. Your power is consuming what little energy you have left, Crusher said, her medical instincts overriding her fear. Please, let me help you. Whatever this force is, your body is dying. Vader's lenses fixed on her. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, you have the medical capability to sustain my life support? We can try, Crusher said, but I need your cooperation. Another pause. Picard recognized the calculation happening behind that mask. Vader was assessing his situation, measuring his options, determining whether cooperation or conflict served him better. It was the analysis of a military commander who had survived countless battles through strategic thinking. Very well, Doctor, Vader said finally. But understand this, Captain Picard. I am not your prisoner. I am not your ally. I am a servant of order, of power, of an empire that spans a galaxy. When I am restored, when I understand where I am and how to return, nothing will stand between me and that goal. Not your Federation, not your technology. Nothing. Picard met those red lenses without flinching. Then we understand each other, Lord Vader. While you are aboard my ship, you will follow our rules. We've saved your life. Perhaps in time you'll see that there are better ways to serve order than through fear and conquest. Vader's mechanical breathing filled the silence. Then, impossibly, there was something like dark amusement in his filtered voice. You speak like a Jedi, Captain. They believed in noble causes too. I killed them all. The observation lounge adjacent to sickbay had become an unlikely diplomatic venue. Vader sat across from Picard, the force field between them deactivated at the Dark Lord's insistence. I will not negotiate from within a cage. Dr. Crusher had stabilized his cybernetics by creating a power interface using modified isolinear chips and a miniaturized fusion generator. The Sith Lord's breathing was steadier now, stronger, though the mechanical rhythm remained unsettling. Data, Troy, and Riker flanked Picard. Worf stood at tactical readiness near the door. All of them studied the armored figure with varying degrees of fascination and concern. You said you killed the Jedi, Picard began, his tone conversational but probing. Who were they? Vader's helmet tilted slightly, the red lenses catching the room's light. peacekeepers, diplomats, mystics who claimed to serve the Force and the Republic. They were corrupt, complacent, blind to the decay around them. When the Empire rose, they stood against order. They were eliminated. "You speak of genocide," Picard said quietly. "You destroyed an entire order of people because they opposed your empire." "I speak of necessity," Vader countered. "The Jedi were not innocents, Captain. They were warriors who had forgotten how to fight, politicians who pretended to be above politics, zealots who enforced their narrow view of morality across the galaxy. They kidnapped children to indoctrinate them. They forbade emotional attachment. They allowed slavery to flourish in the Outer Rim while they meditated in their temple on Coruscant." His voice dropped lower. "I know. I was one of them." That admission sent ripples of surprise through the Enterprise officers. Troi leaned forward, her empathic senses focused entirely on Vader. She felt layers beneath that admission: pain, rage, regret, all buried under decades of iron discipline. "You were a Jedi?" Picard asked. "I was Anakin Skywalker," Vader said, and there was something in his filtered voice, a ghost of another person, another life. "A slave boy from a desert world who became the Chosen One, the prophesied savior of the Jedi Order. I fought in the Clone Wars. I was a hero of the Republic." He paused, his breathing the only sound. "Then I saw the truth. The Jedi had grown weak. The Republic had grown corrupt. My wife," his fist clenched. "The Jedi's rules, their fear of emotion, their arrogance. It destroyed everything I loved." "So you chose to serve an empire instead," Picard said. "You chose to become this." Vader's hand gestured to his armored body. "I was betrayed. My master, Obi-Wan Kenobi, left me to burn on a lava planet after we dueled. This armor, these cybernetics, they are all that keep me alive. I am more machine than man now, twisted and evil, as my son once said." The admission carried no self-pity, only cold acceptance. "But through this pain, I found power. Through power, I found purpose. The Empire brought order to the galaxy. It ended the chaos of the Clone Wars. It protected trillions of beings." "At what cost?" Riker challenged. "How many worlds did your empire subjugate? How many beings suffered under its rule?" "Fewer than would have died in endless civil wars," Vader shot back. "You sit here, comfortable in your utopia, judging decisions made in the crucible of galactic collapse. Your Federation, tell me, Captain, how many worlds are members? Hundreds, perhaps 1,000. "Over 150 member worlds," Data supplied, "with thousands of associated protectorates and allied civilizations." "The Empire controlled millions of systems," Vader said. "Millions. The scale alone dwarfs anything you can imagine. Maintaining order across that distance, among that diversity, required strength. It required fear. It required—" He paused. "Sacrifice. The sacrifice of your humanity," Troi said softly. "I can feel it, Lord Vader. Beneath your anger, beneath your justifications, you're in constant pain, not just physical. The darkness you speak of, this force you wield, it's consuming you from within." Vader's lenses fixed on her. For a long moment, the only sound was his breathing. "You are an empath," he stated, "similar to Jedi who could sense emotions." "Yes, Counselor, I am in pain. I have been in pain for over 20 years. The dark side of the Force demands suffering as the price of power. I have paid that price willingly." "But you don't have to," Picard said, leaning forward. "Whatever you were in your galaxy, whoever you served, you're here now. Perhaps this is an opportunity, a chance to escape that cycle of pain and find another way." Vader stood abruptly, his height and armor making him tower over the seated officers. His presence filled the room, oppressive and dark. You understand nothing, Captain. I am not some lost soul awaiting redemption. I am Darth Vader. I have destroyed planets. I have executed admirals for failure. I have choked the life from rebels with a thought. He raised his hand, and across the room, a data pad trembled on the table. I could kill everyone in this room before your security officer could fire his weapon. But you won't, Picard said calmly, not rising from his seat. Because you're practical, you're a military strategist. You understand that you're alone in an unknown territory, surrounded by technology you don't understand, in a universe where the rules of your reality no longer fully apply. You need us, Lord Vader. You need our help to survive, to understand where you are, and perhaps to find a way home. Vader's hand lowered. The mechanical breathing filled the silence. Finally, he sat again. You are correct, Captain. I am pragmatic. What do you propose? Cooperation, Picard said. You help us understand your technology, your capabilities, this force you wield. In return, we help you stabilize your condition, study the spatial anomaly that brought you here, and search for a way to return you to your galaxy. While you're aboard my ship, you conduct yourself according to our protocols. No violence, no threats, no use of your powers against my crew. And if I encounter your enemies, Vader asked, this neutral zone you mentioned, you're at cold war with someone. The Romulans, Picard confirmed. We maintain a treaty, but tensions are constant. Then we may find our interests aligned, Vader said. I am familiar with Cold Wars, Captain. The Empire maintained similar tensions with the Rebel Alliance for years. If your enemies become my enemies, if they threaten my survival or my goals, I will defend myself with all the power at my disposal. Picard nodded slowly. It wasn't the agreement he'd hoped for, but it was realistic. Understood. Mr. Data will work with you to analyze your fighter's technology. Dr. Crusher will continue monitoring your medical status. You'll be assigned quarters under surveillance. Consider it probationary guest status. Vader stood again. I accept your terms, Captain. For now. He turned toward the door, then paused. A word of advice, Picard. You remind me of the Jedi Masters I once knew. Noble, idealistic, certain of the rightness of your cause. But I have seen such certainty crumble when faced with impossible choices. Pray that your Federation never faces the darkness that consumed my Republic. You may find your principles harder to maintain than you imagine. With that, Vader strode from the observation lounge, his cape billowing behind him, his mechanical breathing echoing down the corridor. The Enterprise officers sat in silence, processing the encounter. That, Riker said finally, is the most dangerous being I've ever met. Agreed, Worf rumbled. He is a warrior without honor. He would sacrifice anything for victory. He's also profoundly broken, Troy added quietly. The anger, the pain, it's like a wound that never heals. He's trapped himself in a cycle of suffering because he believes it's the only way to be strong. Picard stared at the door through which Vader had departed. Perhaps, but he's also intelligent, experienced, and incredibly powerful. We must be very careful, number one. We've brought a Dark Lord aboard the Enterprise. I pray we don't come to regret it. The Romulan warbird IRW Valdor drifted silent and invisible beneath its cloaking device, positioned at the edge of the neutral zone. On its bridge, Commander Sela studied the sensor data with predatory interest. Her pointed ears, inherited from her human mother and Romulan father, seemed to sharpen with focus. The genetic legacy of Tasha Yar mixed with Romulan cunning made her particularly dangerous. Replay the subspace distortion readings, she commanded. The tactical officer complied. The view screen displayed the massive spatial rift that had opened in Federation space 3 hours prior. The energy signatures were unlike anything in the Romulan database, dimensional fracturing on a scale that suggested technology far beyond either the Federation or the Empire. And the Enterprise's current position? Holding station near the anomaly's collapse point, Commander. They retrieved something from the distortion, a small craft of unknown origin. Sensors detected the Enterprise bringing it aboard. Sella's lips curved into a cold smile. A gift from the stars delivered to our doorstep. Whatever technology created that rift could revolutionize warp travel, weapons systems, cloaking capabilities. She turned to her science officer. Can we determine what the Enterprise recovered? Negative, Commander. Their shields prevent detailed scans. However, subspace monitoring detected an unusual energy signature in their sickbay for approximately 30 minutes before it stabilized. The signature was organic, yet powerful. Some form of directed energy projection. Organic energy projection? Sella leaned forward. Elaborate. It resembles what our scientists theorize about the legendary Vulcan mental disciplines, but exponentially more powerful. Whatever or whoever the Enterprise recovered appears to possess abilities we've never encountered. Sella's mind raced through possibilities. A new weapon, a new ally, a new threat. Any of these could shift the balance of power in the quadrant. The Romulan Star Empire had waited patiently since the Tomed incident decades ago, rebuilding strength behind their borders. If this mysterious arrival represented advanced technology or capabilities, the Tal Shiar would want it, the Praetor would want it, and Sella intended to deliver it. Helm, bring us closer to the neutral zone boundary. Maintain cloak. I want to monitor everything the Enterprise does. Prepare a coded transmission to command. Priority Omega. The Tal Shiar needs to know about this immediately. Commander, the tactical officer interrupted. We're detecting a second vessel approaching the Enterprise's position. Configuration matches a Klingon bird of prey. Sella cursed in Riansu. The Klingons. Of course they would investigate such an anomaly. Their sensors were crude but effective, and their curiosity about potential weapons matched even Romulan interest. Aboard the Enterprise, Captain Picard received the hail from the IKS Coronar with resignation. Klingons at the neutral zone was never ideal timing. On screen, the view screen shifted to display a Klingon bridge, all harsh angles and dim lighting. Commander Kavar glared from the captain's chair, his ridged forehead creasing with suspicion. Picard, our sensors detected a massive subspace distortion in this sector. The High Council is curious what the Federation is hiding. We're hiding nothing, Commander, Picard replied diplomatically. A spatial anomaly appeared and disappeared. We're investigating the cause. Our scans detected your tractor beam pulling something aboard, Kavar growled. A vessel of unknown origin. The Empire has a right to examine potential threats near our borders. The vessel was damaged, its pilot injured. We offered humanitarian assistance, as is our custom. Kavar's expression suggested he found Federation customs weak and tedious. Then you won't object to our boarding party examining this injured pilot to ensure they pose no threat to Klingon interests. Before Picard could refuse diplomatically, the turbolift doors opened. Vader strode onto the bridge, his presence immediately dominating the space. Several junior officers turned to stare. The Klingon commander's image on the view screen focused on the armored figure. And who, Kavar demanded, is that? Vader approached the captain's chair, standing beside Picard. His red lenses studied the Klingon on the screen with calculating intensity. I am Darth Vader. I assume you are the local warlord? Kavar's eyes widened slightly, a rare show of surprise from a Klingon warrior. I am Commander Kavar of the Klingon Defense Forces. I serve the Klingon High Council and Chancellor Goron. What species are you? What empire do you represent? An empire you would respect, Vader replied. One built on strength, military discipline, and the willingness to do what is necessary to maintain order. Tell me, Commander, do your people value honor? Honor is everything to a Klingon, Kavar said, his tone defensive. We live and die by our code. Warriors who fall in battle enter Sto-vo-kor, the halls of the honored dead. Interesting, Vader said. In my galaxy, warriors who fell in battle were simply dead. But those who served the Empire with distinction earned power, prestige, and the right to command. I rose from slavery to become Supreme Commander of all Imperial forces through strength alone. He paused, his breathing filling the silence. I sense warrior potential in you, Klingon. Your culture values combat, so did the Empire. Perhaps we would have found common ground. Kavar studied Vader with new interest. You speak of war as though it were poetry. Most Federation officers are soft, obsessed with diplomacy and compromise. You seem different. I am not Federation, Vader stated flatly. I am a guest aboard this vessel. My goals align with theirs temporarily, nothing more. Picard resisted the urge to intervene. Vader was handling the Klingon commander more effectively than standard diplomatic protocols would allow. Let the Dark Lord prove his value or reveal his intentions. Then perhaps we should speak privately, Vader, Kavar suggested. Warrior to warrior, the Klingon Empire values strength. We have no love for Federation weakness. If you seek allies who understand power, I seek only a way home, Vader interrupted. But I am pragmatic. If your Empire can assist me, I will consider your offer. If not, you waste my time. Kavar's expression darkened at the dismissal, but there was also grudging respect. Very well, the Coronar will shadow your position. If you wish to discuss matters without Federation oversight, you need only signal us. The transmission ended. Picard stood slowly, turning to face Vader. That was a diplomatic conversation, Lord Vader. You just opened negotiations with the Klingon Empire without my authorization. I assessed a potential resource, Vader corrected. Your Klingons value military strength and direct communication. They see your Federation as weak. They see me as something different. That could be useful. Useful to whom? Riker demanded from his station. To the Federation or to you? Vader's lenses swept across the bridge. Does it matter, Commander? We all serve our own interests. I am simply more honest about it than most. Worf stepped forward, his hand near his phaser. The Klingons are Federation allies. You will not manipulate them against us. Stand down, Lieutenant, Picard ordered. To Vader, you agreed to cooperate according to our protocols. That means consulting with me before making contact with other powers. I agreed not to use violence against your crew, Vader corrected. I said nothing about limiting my conversations with potential allies. But very well, Captain. I will inform you before I speak with other factions. A reasonable compromise. Before Picard could respond, Data's console chimed urgently. Captain, I am detecting multiple cloaked vessels at the edge of the neutral zone, Romulan energy signatures. At least 3 warbirds, possibly more. They appear to be monitoring our position. The Romulans, Picard said grimly. They know. Vader turned toward the view screen, though the cloaked Romulan vessels were invisible. These Romulans, they are your enemies. Not enemies, Picard said carefully. More like adversaries. We maintain an uneasy peace. The neutral zone exists to prevent conflict. A border maintained by mutual fear, Vader observed. The Empire established similar boundaries with rebel-controlled sectors. It never prevented conflict, only delayed it. He clasped his hands behind his back in a gesture that seemed oddly familiar to Picard, a military commander's stance. The Klingons are curious. The Romulans are watching. Captain, I believe my presence has attracted attention you may not be prepared to handle. Then perhaps you should remain in your quarters until we've resolved this situation, Picard suggested. Vader's mechanical breathing filled the bridge. Or perhaps, Captain, you should accept that I am now a factor in your quadrant's balance of power. The moment I arrived, the status quo changed. Your enemies see opportunity, your allies see threat, and you, the red lenses fixed on Picard, you see a problem you hope will simply disappear. I see a man far from home who needs our help, Picard said, but I also see someone accustomed to using fear as a tool. That doesn't work in the Federation, Lord Vader. We've built something different here. We shall see, Vader replied. In my experience, every civilization believes it has transcended the need for strength. Then reality tests that belief. I wonder, Captain, when that test comes, will your principles survive? Or will you discover that darkness exists in every heart, waiting for the right crisis to emerge? With that, Vader strode toward the turbo lift. As the doors closed behind him, Picard turned to his crew. Yellow alert. Monitor those Romulan vessels. Data. Begin full analysis of Vader's fighter. I want to understand the technology that brought him here. Riker, contact Starfleet Command. They need to know what we're dealing with. As his orders were executed, Picard stared at the view screen, at the stars and the invisible Romulan threat lurking in the darkness. Vader had been right about one thing. His arrival had changed everything. The question was, would it be a change the Federation could survive? Vader's assigned quarters on Deck 8 were spacious by Starship standards. A bedroom, small living area, and workspace equipped with a computer terminal. To the Dark Lord, accustomed to commanding superstar destroyers and maintaining private meditation chambers across the Imperial fleet, they felt like a cell. He stood at the viewport, watching stars streak past at warp, his breathing the only sound in the confined space. The door chimed. Vader didn't turn. Enter. Lieutenant Commander Data stepped inside, carrying a portable engineering kit and a pad. Lord Vader, I hope I am not disturbing you. Captain Picard has assigned me to work with you on analyzing your starfighter's technology. You are the android, Vader observed, finally turning from the viewport. His force senses had probed Data the moment they'd met, and found nothing. No life force, no emotional resonance, yet unmistakably sentient. A machine that thinks. The Empire had protocol droids, but nothing as sophisticated as you. I am a Sung-type android, Data explained. I possess a positronic brain capable of 60 trillion operations per second. While I lack emotions, I am fully sentient and self-aware. He paused. Your observation raises a fascinating question. How does your force perceive artificial life? Vader tilted his helmet slightly. It doesn't. You are invisible to the Force, Lieutenant Commander. A void where a person should be. It's unsettling. I apologize if my presence disturbs you. Don't. Vader moved to the workspace, settling into the chair with mechanical precision. Your nature makes you useful. You cannot be manipulated through fear or anger. You process information without emotional bias. The Emperor would have found you either fascinating or threatening, perhaps both. Data sat across from him, activating the pad. I have been studying the wreckage of your TIE advanced fighter. The technology is remarkably efficient. Your hyperdrive system operates on principles that predate our own warp theory, folding space rather than creating a subspace bubble. The ion engines are compact yet powerful, and your targeting computers are integrated with organic neural interfaces. The Empire perfected the fusion of man and machine, Vader said. I am living proof of that. He gestured to his armor. Every system in this suit, life support, cybernetic limbs, sensory enhancement, is integrated with my nervous system. The same principles applied to starfighter cockpits. Imperial pilots thought their weapons into firing solutions. Remarkable. Data's fingers moved across the pad. However, your hyperdrive is irreparably damaged. The dimensional transition appears to have fractured the primary motivator. Additionally, your power cells are depleted. Without access to Imperial fuel sources, the fighter cannot be restored to operational status. Vader's fist clenched on the armrest. Then I am trapped here. Not necessarily, Data countered. Your technology and ours share certain fundamental principles. If we could adapt a Federation power source to your life support systems, you would no longer depend on Dr. Crusher's temporary solutions. And if we could understand the energy signature of the spatial rift that brought you here, we might be able to artificially recreate it. Might, Vader repeated. A word that offers hope without commitment. It is honest, Data said simply. I cannot promise success, only effort. Captain Picard believes the anomaly was not random. Something caused it. If we determine the cause, we may determine the solution. Vader studied the android for a long moment. You're different from your captain, Lieutenant Commander. He speaks of principles and ideals. You speak of facts and possibilities. Which is more representative of your Federation? Both, Data replied. The Federation was built on ideals, the belief that diverse species could cooperate for mutual benefit. But those ideals are sustained by practical solutions to practical problems. Captain Picard embodies our philosophy. I represent our methodology. Neither is complete without the other. A balanced perspective, Vader acknowledged. Rare in my experience. Most beings cling to either dogmatic ideology or cynical pragmatism. Your Federation somehow maintains both? We try, Data said. Though we do not always succeed, the Federation has made mistakes. The forced relocation of indigenous peoples during early colonial expansion, the exploitation of pre-warp civilizations before the Prime Directive was established, the compromises made during the Cardassian border conflicts. We are not perfect, Lord Vader, but we endeavor to learn from our failures. Vader's breathing filled the silence. The Emperor would call that weakness. He believed that admitting error invited rebellion. Better to project absolute certainty, even when wrong, than to show vulnerability. Did that philosophy serve your empire well? Data asked. No. The admission came quietly, filtered through the respirator. The rebellion exploited every crack in the Empire's facade. Every admiral executed for failure became a martyr. Every planet oppressed became a recruiting ground. The Emperor's certainty blinded him to the rot spreading through his own territory. Vader's helmet turned toward the viewport. I see now that absolute power creates absolute brittleness. The Empire had no flexibility, no capacity for adaptation. When Luke Skywalker, my son, refused to join the dark side, the entire system began to crumble. Data processed this revelation. You have a son? Did he survive the fall of your empire? I don't know, Vader admitted. The rift took me during a mission to hunt remaining Jedi. For all I know, Luke has already defeated the Emperor. Or the Emperor has corrupted him as he corrupted me. Or the galaxy burns in endless civil war. His fist clenched again. I must return, not for the Empire's sake, but to know his fate. Before Data could respond, the ship lurched violently. Red alert klaxons screamed to life. Picard's voice echoed through the comm system. All hands, battle stations, we're under attack. Vader was on his feet instantly, moving toward the door with predatory speed. Data followed, his android reflexes matching the Sith Lord's enhanced cybernetics. They reached the turbo lift together. "Deck 1, Vader commanded. The lift accelerated. "Lord Vader, you should remain in your quarters during combat situations," Data suggested. "I am a military commander, Lieutenant Commander. I do not hide while others fight." The turbolift doors opened onto a bridge in chaos. The view screen displayed 3 Romulan warbirds, decloaking simultaneously, their predatory hulls gleaming green against the void. Disruptor fire lanced toward the Enterprise, slamming into shields with violent energy bursts. "Shields at 85%, Worf reported. "Returning fire." Picard stood at the center of the bridge, his command presence absolute. "Evasive maneuvers, Ensign. Mr. Worf, target their weapons arrays. Disable, don't destroy." "Captain," Riker called from his station, "they're not trying to destroy us. Their fire is precise, calculated. They're herding us toward the neutral zone." Vader moved to stand beside the captain's chair, his presence immediately drawing attention. On the view screen, the lead warbird's commander appeared, Commander Sayla, her half-human features twisted with predatory satisfaction. "Captain Picard," she said smoothly, "the Romulan Star Empire has a proposition. Surrender the being you recovered from the spatial anomaly, and we will withdraw. Refuse, and we will take him by force. The being in question is a sentient individual under our protection," Picard stated firmly. "He is not cargo to be surrendered. This attack violates our treaty, Commander Sayla." "Treaties are words, Captain. Power is reality." Sayla's gaze shifted to Vader. "You, the one who commands organic energy. The Tal Shiar has studied the sensor readings. We know what you are. A weapon of unprecedented potential. The Empire would compensate you handsomely for your services. Join us, and we will help you harness abilities these Federation weaklings could never appreciate." Vader stepped forward, his image now beside Picard's on the Romulan view screen. "You presume to command me, Romulan? I have destroyed fleets. I have conquered systems. I am Darth Vader, and I kneel to no one." Sayla's expression hardened. "Then you will die with the Federation fools. All vessels, maximum firepower. Disable their shields and prepare boarding parties." The transmission cut. 3 warbirds opened fire simultaneously, a coordinated barrage of disruptor beams and photon torpedoes that hammered the Enterprise's defenses. The ship shuddered under the assault. "Shields down to 60%, Worf reported grimly. Vader's hands clenched into fists. Around him, the bridge lights flickered as power diverted to shields. He felt the ship's pain through the Force. Not sentient pain, but the stress of systems pushed beyond their design limits. The Enterprise was powerful, but 3 warbirds were overwhelming its defenses. "Captain," Vader said quietly, "remove your restrictions. Let me show these Romulans what true power means." Picard turned to face him. "What are you proposing?" "Transport me to their lead vessel," Vader said. "I will neutralize their commander and force their surrender, quickly, efficiently, with minimal casualties." "Absolutely not," Riker objected. "We don't send boarding parties into active combat situations, and we certainly don't—" The ship rocked again. Sparks erupted from an aft console. "Shields at 40%, Worf called. Picard met Vader's masked gaze. In that moment, the captain faced an impossible choice. Maintain his principles while his ship died around him, or unleash a dark power he barely understood against an enemy that respected only strength. "If I allow this," Picard said slowly, "you will disable their weapon systems and force their withdrawal. Nothing more. No killing unless absolutely necessary for self-defense." "I make no such promise," Vader replied, "but I will be efficient." Another impact. Shields at 30%. We cannot withstand another concentrated barrage. Picard closed his eyes briefly. Then, "Mr. O'Brien, lock onto Lord Vader and transport him to the Romulan flagship's bridge. Mr. Worf, the moment he materializes, target their weapons arrays with everything we have." Vader moved to the turbo-lift alcove, positioning himself in an open space. His breathing intensified, and around him the air began to shimmer with invisible force energy. "One more thing, Lord Vader," Picard called. "Come back alive. We're not finished learning from each other." Vader's helmet turned slightly. "We shall see, Captain." The transporter beam took him, and Darth Vader disappeared from the Enterprise, reappearing in the heart of his enemy's stronghold. The Romulan bridge was elegant in its brutality. Dark metal surfaces, angular view screens, and tactical stations arranged for maximum efficiency. Commander Sella stood at the center, coordinating the attack, when reality sparkled and a nightmare materialized before her. Darth Vader solidified from the transporter beam, his black armor drinking in the bridge's dim lighting, his red lenses sweeping across the room with terrible focus. His mechanical breathing filled the shocked silence. 6 Romulan guards reached for disruptors. They never cleared their holsters. Vader raised one hand and 3 guards flew backward, as though struck by invisible battering rams. They crashed into bulkheads with sickening thuds, slumping unconscious. The other 3 managed to draw weapons. Disruptor beams lanced toward Vader and stopped, frozen in midair. Crackling energy suspended impossibly before him. "Impressive," Vader observed, studying the halted energy beams with academic interest. "Your weapons operate on different principles than blasters, but the Force adapts." He clenched his fist, and the energy beams dissipated harmlessly. Then he gestured, and the 3 armed guards' weapons tore from their grips, flying across the bridge to clatter uselessly in a corner. Sella backed toward her command chair, her hand moving to a concealed control panel. "Security to the bridge! Intruder alert!" Vader took one step forward, and Sella froze, not by choice, but because she physically could not move. Her body locked in place, muscles straining against an invisible restraint. Vader approached slowly, deliberately, his cape settling behind him like wings of darkness. "You made 2 mistakes." "Commander," Vader said, his filtered voice calm despite the violence he'd just unleashed. "First, you assumed I could be bought. I serve no master but myself. Second," he raised his other hand toward the bridge's main tactical console. Sparks erupted from its circuits. Lights flickered. "You assumed your technology could contain me." Around the bridge, systems began failing. Weapons control went offline. Navigation displayed error messages. Even the view screen showing the Enterprise flickered and died. Vader was systematically disabling the Warbird's combat capability through the Force alone, his power reaching into the ship's electronic nervous system and crushing it. "Impossible," Sela gasped, still frozen in place. "No being should have this power." "The Force grants abilities many consider unnatural," Vader replied. He released his hold on her body, and she collapsed to her knees, gasping. "Your Empire seeks to weaponize me, to study me, to control me. You are welcome to try, Commander. But understand, I have faced armies. I have dueled Jedi Masters. I have survived the Emperor's wrath. You are nothing." Through the ship's failing systems, Vader sensed fear spreading like wildfire. Romulan crew members throughout the Warbird felt the oppressive presence of dark side energy permeating their vessel. Some fled their stations, others froze at their posts, terrified to move. Sela struggled to her feet, her pride warring with survival instinct. "The other Warbirds will destroy the Enterprise. Kill me if you wish. It changes nothing." Vader turned to face the flickering view screen, which now showed only static. "Restore communications," he commanded. "The systems are—" Vader gestured, and across the bridge, sparking consoles suddenly stabilized. Power flowed back into communication arrays. The view screen cleared, showing the Enterprise still under fire from the two remaining warbirds, but also showing those vessels hesitating, their attack patterns disrupted by their flagship's sudden silence. "Open a channel to all three vessels," Vader ordered. "Now!" Sella's tactical officer, hands shaking, complied. The view screen split to show the Enterprise's bridge on one side and the bridges of the other two warbirds on the other. Picard appeared relieved to see Vader alive. The Romulan commanders appeared shocked to see their superior's bridge in chaos. Vader moved to stand directly before the view screen, his imposing form dominating the display. "I am Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith. Your commander attempted to claim me as a weapon for the Romulan Star Empire. I have demonstrated why that was unwise. Your flagship is disabled, your weapons are offline, your crew is terrified, and I have not yet begun to truly exercise my power." He raised one hand toward the view screen, and aboard the two remaining warbirds, their commanders felt invisible pressure close around their throats. Not enough to kill, just enough to remind them of their mortality. "You have two choices," Vader continued, his voice utterly calm. "Withdraw immediately and leave Federation space, or I will disable your vessels one by one, and you will drift helpless while I decide your fate. Choose now." The Romulan commanders exchanged glances on their split screens. Pride warred with pragmatism. Then, one by one, they nodded. "We withdraw," the first commander managed, his voice strained. "As do we," the second confirmed. Vader lowered his hand. The pressure on their throats vanished. "A wise decision. Commander Sella will remain aboard this vessel to ensure compliance. If you return, if you attempt to pursue the Enterprise, if you send intelligence reports suggesting another attack, I will know. The Force reaches across vast distances, and I have marked each of you. Cross me again, and distance will not save you." It was a bluff. Vader's Force abilities didn't extend across star systems, but the Romulans didn't know that. Fear was often more effective than actual power. The two warbirds began withdrawing, their engines powering up for retreat. On the Enterprise's bridge, Picard stood slowly, studying Vader's image with complex emotions warring across his features. "Lord Vader," Picard said carefully, "please return to the Enterprise. We need to discuss what just happened." Vader turned to Sella, who still knelt on her damaged bridge, surrounded by unconscious guards and sparking consoles. "Commander, you will convey a message to your Tal Shiar superiors. Tell them that Darth Vader is not a weapon to be claimed. Tell them that any future attempts to capture or study me will result in consequences they cannot imagine. And tell them," he paused, his breathing the only sound, "that if they wish to negotiate rather than threaten, I may be amenable to dialogue." Sella's eyes widened slightly. "You would work with us?" "I would work with anyone whose goals align with mine," Vader said. "The Federation offers one path. Your empire offers another. The Klingons offer a third. I am a pragmatist, Commander. When I understand this quadrant's politics more fully, I will choose my allies or choose to remain unaligned, but I will not be taken by force. Ever." He tapped the Enterprise's combadge data had attached to his armor earlier. "Mr. O'Brien, one to beam back." The transporter claimed him, and Vader materialized back on the Enterprise's bridge. The moment he appeared, security officers raised their phaser rifles, but Picard held up a hand, forestalling any aggression. "Stand down," the captain ordered. To Vader, "That was quite a display, Lord Vader. You've just engaged in an act of war against the Romulan Star Empire on behalf of the Federation, without our authorization." "I engaged in self-defense," Vader corrected. "They attacked to capture me. I defended myself. The fact that doing so also defended your vessel is incidental." Riker stepped forward, his jaw tight with anger. "You left that ship's bridge a wreck and its commander humiliated. The Romulans don't forget slights like that. You've just made them our permanent enemies." "They were already your enemies, Commander," Vader replied. "You maintain a neutral zone because you fear open war. I simply reminded them why that fear is justified." He turned to Picard. "You asked me to disable their attack and force their withdrawal. I accomplished both objectives, with, I might add, minimal casualties. No Romulans died, but several were injured," Counselor Troy said quietly. "I felt their pain, their terror. Lord Vader, what you did aboard that ship, the fear you created, it will haunt those crew members for years." Vader's lenses fixed on her. "Yes, it will. And because of that fear, they will not attack this ship again. They will not underestimate you. Fear is a tool, Counselor. Sometimes it is the most effective tool." Picard moved closer, his voice low but firm. "That is not how the Federation operates. We do not rule through fear. We do not seek to intimidate our enemies into submission. We seek understanding, dialogue, peaceful resolution." "And when your enemies refuse dialogue," Vader challenged, "when they respect only strength?" "Commander Sela did not attack you seeking conversation, Captain. She attacked because she believed the Federation weak, bound by rules she could exploit. I showed her the error of that assumption." The bridge fell silent. Every officer present recognized the uncomfortable truth in Vader's words. The Romulans had indeed attacked because they believed they could take what they wanted. Vader had stopped them through overwhelming force. It was effective. It was also everything the Federation claimed to oppose. "This conversation is not over," Picard said finally. "But for now, we need to put distance between ourselves and the neutral zone. Ensign, set course for Starbase 234, Warp 6. Mr. Worf, maintain yellow alert until we're well inside Federation space." As the Enterprise turned away, accelerating towards safety, Picard pulled Vader aside. "A word in my ready room. Now." Vader followed without argument. The ready room doors closed behind them, leaving Captain and Dark Lord alone to discuss what lines had been crossed and what precedents had been set that could never be undone. Picard's ready room was a sanctuary of civilization, shelves lined with leather-bound books, a fish tank bubbling softly in the corner, classical music playing at barely audible volume. It was the antithesis of everything Vader represented. The Dark Lord stood before the desk like a defendant awaiting judgment, though his posture suggested no remorse. "What you did on that warbird was unacceptable," Picard began, standing behind his desk rather than sitting. "You terrorized their crew, you humiliated their commander, and you've now painted the Enterprise as a vessel that harbors someone who operates outside all established rules of engagement." "I saved your ship," Vader countered. "Your shields were failing. Your crew was minutes from being overwhelmed. Would you have preferred I remain in my quarters while Romulan boarding parties overran your decks? I would have preferred you trust in my ability to command my own vessel." Picard's voice rose slightly, his frustration breaking through diplomatic restraint. "We have protocols, Lord Vader, diplomatic channels, options beyond immediately resorting to overwhelming force and intimidation. And those protocols were working so well," Vader replied dryly. "Tell me, Captain, when Commander Sela demanded my surrender, what was your plan? Refuse politely while she destroyed your ship? Hope she would see reason and withdraw?" Picard's jaw tightened. "We would have found a solution that didn't involve terrorizing enemy personnel." No, you would have found a compromise, Vader said. The Federation excels at compromise. You would have negotiated some arrangement that left everyone partially satisfied and no one truly victorious. That is your way. He moved to the viewport, watching stars streak past. But the Romulans don't respect compromise, Captain. They respect strength. Today I taught them that attacking this vessel carries consequences they cannot afford. That lesson will save Federation lives in the long term. At what cost? Picard demanded. You've legitimized the use of fear as a weapon. You've shown my crew that when principles become inconvenient, they can be discarded in favor of efficiency. Vader turned back to face him. Your crew was already frightened, Captain. I sensed it the moment the warbirds attacked. Fear of death, fear of failure, fear of letting down their families and their Federation. I didn't create that fear. I redirected it toward your enemies. That is tactical thinking. That is darkness, Picard said quietly. The same darkness that consumed your Jedi Order. You told me earlier that you killed them all because they'd grown corrupt and complacent. But looking at you now, I wonder, did you destroy them because they were weak? Or because they represented a philosophy you could no longer accept? Vader stood very still. His breathing, that constant mechanical rhythm, seemed to intensify. The Jedi believed suffering could be transcended through meditation and detachment, that fear could be eliminated through training, that the dark side of the Force was something to be avoided rather than understood. His fist clenched. They were wrong. Fear, anger, pain, these are not weaknesses to be suppressed. They are sources of strength, tools to be mastered. The dark side offered power the Jedi denied themselves out of moral cowardice. And where did that power lead you? Picard asked. To a suit that keeps you alive through constant pain, to a galaxy in flames, to the loss of everything you loved. Was that strength, Lord Vader? Or was it the ultimate weakness, surrendering to darkness because the light demanded too much? Vader's hand shot out and Picard felt invisible pressure around his throat. Not choking, not yet, but a clear warning. The captain stood firm, meeting those red lenses without flinching, his hands at his sides rather than reaching for his throat. I could kill you, Vader said softly. Right now, before your security officers could even respond. I could take this ship, eliminate anyone who opposed me, and use it to establish a base of power in this quadrant. The Force grants me that capability. But you won't, Picard said, his voice strained but steady, despite the pressure on his throat. Because despite everything you claim about embracing darkness, about using fear as a tool, about power justifying itself, you still have a conscience. You still remember who you were before you became this. You mentioned your son, Luke. What would he think if he could see you now, threatening an unarmed captain in his own ready room? The pressure vanished. Vader lowered his hand, turning away. For a long moment, the only sound was his breathing and the soft bubbling of the fish tank. My son, Vader said finally, believed I could be redeemed. He believed that Anakin Skywalker still existed somewhere beneath this mask, buried under decades of pain and service to the dark side. I told him Anakin was dead, destroyed by Darth Vader, but he refused to accept that. The helmet tilted slightly. Perhaps he was the strongest person I ever knew, strong enough to face the Emperor himself, strong enough to believe in possibilities I had long since abandoned. Picard moved around his desk, approaching carefully. Then honor his belief, Lord Vader. You're in a new universe now, free from your Emperor's influence, free from the Empire's demands. You have an opportunity to choose who you want to be. You could embrace the darkness that's defined you for decades. Or I could pretend to be something I'm not, Vader interrupted. Pretend that decades of atrocities can be erased by cooperation with your utopian federation. "Captain, I have killed thousands. Personally, with these hands or through the Force. I have destroyed planets. I have tortured prisoners. I have executed my own officers for failure. There is no redemption for Darth Vader. Perhaps not in your galaxy," Picard conceded. "But here, you could be something different, not pretending, becoming the man you were before the darkness claimed you." Before Vader could respond, red alert klaxons erupted throughout the ship. Both men turned toward the door as Riker's voice boomed through the comm system. "Captain, to the bridge immediately. We've got incoming massive signatures, unlike anything in our database." They ran together, Captain and Dark Lord, reaching the bridge in seconds. The view screen displayed a sight that sent chills through every officer present. 6 massive cubes, each 1 kilometers on a side. Geometric perfection rendered in dark metal and pulsing green lights. They had appeared from transwarp conduits, their arrival tearing holes in normal space. The Borg Collective had come calling. "Borg," Worf growled, his hand moving to weapons controls. 6 cubes. We cannot possibly fight them all." Data's fingers flew across his console. "Captain, the Borg have altered course to intercept us. They are hailing. No, transmitting directly into our communications array." The view screen shifted. No face appeared, just the interior of a Borg cube, thousands of drones moving in perfect synchronization, and overlaid on that horrifying vista, text that scrolled in cold, mechanical precision. "We are the Borg. You will be assimilated. Your biological and technological distinctiveness will be added to our own. Resistance is futile." The entity designated Vader possesses unique attributes: organic energy manipulation, cybernetic integration at unprecedented efficiency, military strategic intelligence from unknown origin. The Borg Collective will add this distinctiveness to our own. Prepare for assimilation. The transmission ended. 6 Borg cubes accelerated toward the Enterprise, their tractor beams beginning to power up, their assimilation protocols activating. They had detected Vader's abilities through subspace monitoring. They had determined he represented perfection to be added to their collective, and they would stop at nothing to claim him. Vader stepped forward, studying the approaching cubes with tactical assessment. "What are these Borg?" "Cybernetic organisms," Data explained rapidly. "A hive mind that assimilates entire civilizations, converting biological beings into drones linked to a collective consciousness. They have assimilated thousands of species. They adapt instantly to any weapon used against them. They are, quite possibly, the most dangerous threat in the galaxy." "And they want to assimilate me," Vader observed. His helmet turned to Picard. "It seems, Captain, that I am more trouble than I'm worth. Perhaps you should surrender me to them. Save your crew." Every officer on the bridge turned to look at Picard, waiting for his response. The captain stood tall, his decision already made. "Absolutely not," Picard said firmly. "No one on this ship gets assimilated. Not on my watch. Not ever." He turned to his crew. "Battle stations. All hands to red alert. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. And someone get me Starfleet command. We need immediate reinforcements." Vader watched the captain with something approaching respect. "You would risk your entire crew for me, after everything I've done, everything I've threatened." "You're under my protection," Picard said simply. "That means something in the Federation. That means everything on the Enterprise." He turned to face Vader directly. "Besides, Lord Vader, you told me earlier that you've faced armies. You've survived impossible odds. It seems we're about to discover if Darth Vader can face something truly unstoppable." Vader's breathing intensified. Around him, the bridge lights flickered as dark side energy began to surge through his connection to the Force. His fists clenched, and officers felt the temperature drop as his power manifested physically in the air around him. "The Borg believe I am distinctiveness to be added to their collective," Vader said, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "They are about to learn that some distinctiveness cannot be contained, cannot be controlled, cannot be assimilated." He turned to face the view screen, the approaching cubes reflected in his helmet's surface. "I am Darth Vader, and I am no one's drone." The 6 Borg cubes closed to weapons range. The battle for the Dark Lord's soul and the Enterprise's survival was about to begin. The first Borg cube fired. A cutting beam, brilliant green energy designed to slice through shields and hull plating, lanced across space toward the Enterprise. The ship banked hard, Lieutenant Commander LaForge, pushing the impulse engines beyond their design specifications. The beam missed by meters, its energy discharge causing static across every sensor array. "Return fire," Picard commanded. "All phaser banks, photon torpedoes, full spread." Orange phaser beams and blue-white torpedoes erupted from the Enterprise, hammering the lead cube's surface. The weapons scored direct hits and accomplished nothing. The Borg shields adapted instantly, absorbing the energy, converting it into power for their own systems. The cube didn't even slow down. Shields holding at 90%, Worf reported. But they're modulating their cutting beam frequencies. Next hit will penetrate. Data's console chimed with urgent calculations. "Captain, at current rate of adaptation, the Borg will neutralize our defensive capabilities in 4.3 minutes. We cannot win through conventional combat." Vader moved to the center of the bridge, his presence dominating despite the chaos around him. "Then use unconventional methods. What are the Borg's weaknesses?" "They have few," Data admitted. "Their collective nature makes them nearly impossible to surprise. Their adaptation makes them nearly impossible to harm, and their numbers are effectively infinite. Destroying one cube accomplishes nothing when thousands more exist." "Nearly impossible is not impossible," Vader observed. "Every enemy has a weakness. The Empire learned that when a single X-Wing destroyed the Death Star." His helmet turned toward Picard. "Captain, I can feel them through the Force. Thousands of minds linked together, but underneath that unity, individual consciousness still exists, suppressed but not destroyed. The Borg are not truly one. They are many beings forced into artificial harmony." Troy's eyes widened. "He's right. I sense echoes of individual thoughts beneath the collective voice, trapped minds crying out, unable to break free but still present." "Can that be exploited?" Riker asked. "In my galaxy, Jedi could use the Force to manipulate weak minds," Vader explained. "The Borg collective is powerful, but it's also fragile, dependent on absolute synchronization. If I could disrupt that synchronization, create discord within their hive mind." He trailed off, his breathing intensifying. "It would require immense power, more than I've exercised since arriving in this universe." "It could kill you," Crusher said from her medical station, monitoring Vader's biosigns remotely. "Your life support systems are still not fully integrated with our technology. A massive Force expenditure might overload your cybernetics." "Then I'll die fighting," Vader replied. "Better than being assimilated into a collective, my identity dissolved into their hive. I have served one master who demanded total obedience. I will not serve another." Picard made his decision. "Do it. Whatever you need from this ship, it's yours." Vader moved to an open section of the bridge. "I need everyone to clear this area. What I'm about to attempt is dangerous. The dark side of the Force can affect those nearby. You might feel fear, anger, despair. Do not let those emotions overwhelm you." The bridge crew backed away, giving Vader space. He stood alone at the center of the bridge, his cape settling around him like wings of shadow. His breathing slowed, deepening, as he reached into the Force with all his power. In his mind, Vader felt the Borg, millions of minds across 6 cubes, linked in perfect machine unity. He felt their thoughts, their calculations, their absolute certainty of victory. He felt the suppressed consciousness of thousands of assimilated beings, screaming silently within their own minds, unable to break free. And he felt something else, something the Borg had not anticipated. The Force connected all living things, and beneath their cybernetic augmentation, the Borg drones were still alive, still connected to that cosmic energy field, still vulnerable to those who could manipulate it. Vader raised both hands. Around him, the bridge lights dimmed as he drew power, not just from his own connection to the Force, but from the ship itself, from the crew around him, from the very fabric of space. Dark side energy manifested visibly now, black tendrils of power crackling around his armor, spreading across the bridge floor like living shadows. "What's happening?" an ensign whispered, terror creeping into her voice. "He's drawing on negative emotions," Troy gasped, her empathic senses overwhelmed. "Fear, anger, pain. He's converting them into power." Vader's consciousness expanded outward, reaching across the void to touch the 6 Borg cubes. He felt their collective mind, their perfect synchronization, and he attacked it with all the fury, all the rage, all the pain he had accumulated over 23 years of suffering. Aboard the Borg cubes, drones suddenly stopped moving. Their perfect unity fractured as Vader's Force presence invaded their collective consciousness like a virus. The suppressed minds he had sensed earlier surged upward, given momentary freedom by the chaos he'd created. Former Federation officers, Klingon warriors, Romulan scientists, all assimilated into the collective, suddenly remembered who they had been. The lead cube's cutting beam powered down mid-fire. Its trajectory became erratic. Across all 6 cubes, systems began failing as the drones operating them experienced something the Borg had never encountered: existential crisis, individual consciousness reasserting itself. The horror of realizing what they had become. On the Enterprise's bridge, Vader's breathing became labored. Warning lights flashed across his chest panel. His life support was failing under the strain. "His biosigns are critical," Crusher warned. "Another 30 seconds and his heart will stop." "Lord Vader, that's enough," Picard called. "You've disrupted them. We can escape now." But Vader didn't stop. He pushed harder, diving deeper into the Borg collective consciousness. He showed them images from his own life. The fall of the Jedi Temple, children cut down by lightsabers, planets burning under orbital bombardment, torture chambers on star destroyers. He showed them the darkness that had consumed him, the pain that defined him, the absolute horror of losing your identity to serve a master's will. He showed them what they feared most, themselves. The lead cube's shields collapsed entirely. Its propulsion systems failed. It began listing, its perfect geometry compromised by internal malfunctions as thousands of drones simultaneously experienced psychological breakdowns. The other 5 cubes fared no better, their synchronized attack dissolving into chaos as their collective mind fractured under Vader's assault. Then, with a final surge of power that made every console on the Enterprise's bridge explode in sparks, Vader released his hold on the Force. He collapsed to one knee, his breathing ragged, his chest panel flashing critical warnings. "All cubes are withdrawing," Data reported, his voice carrying genuine surprise. "They are opening transwarp conduits, retreating at maximum velocity. I am detecting massive system failures across their entire formation. Captain, he actually did it. He drove off the Borg." Picard rushed to Vader's side, helping support the Dark Lord's weight. "Medical team to the bridge, now!" Vader's helmet lifted slightly. "No," he managed through strained breathing. "I will walk to sickbay. I am not carried like a casualty." "You are a casualty," Picard said firmly. "You just sacrificed yourself to save this ship. Allow us to help you." Vader stood slowly, Picard supporting him. Around them, the bridge crew stared in awe and fear at what they had witnessed. This being, this Dark Lord from another galaxy, had done the impossible. He had faced the Borg and won, not through technology or tactics, but through sheer force of will and dark power. "I didn't save your ship, Captain," Vader said as they moved toward the turbolift. "I saved myself. The Borg wanted to assimilate me. I showed them why that would have destroyed them from within. Everything I did was self-preservation." "You can tell yourself that," Picard replied, "but I know what I saw. You could have retreated into your own mind, protected yourself, let the rest of us be assimilated. Instead, you attacked their collective consciousness. You freed the minds they had imprisoned even temporarily. That was not purely selfish, Lord Vader. That was a choice a Jedi would have made." Vader's breathing was the only response as they entered the turbolift. The doors closed, leaving the bridge crew to process what had happened. Lieutenant Worf stared at the view screen, watching the Borg cubes disappear into transwarp conduits, fleeing from a single being. "That," Worf said quietly, "was the most terrifying and honorable thing I have ever witnessed. He is truly a warrior without equal." Riker nodded slowly. "And he's on our ship. The question is, what do we do with someone that powerful, someone that dangerous?" Troy's empathic senses still trembled from the dark side energy that had saturated the bridge. "I don't think we do anything with him, Will. I think we learn from him. And we pray that Captain Picard can guide him towards the light before the darkness consumes us all." On the view screen, stars streaked past as the Enterprise fled toward Federation space, carrying with it a Dark Lord who had just rewritten the rules of what was possible and left everyone wondering what he might do next. Sickbay was silent except for the rhythmic beeping of monitors and Vader's labored mechanical breathing. Dr. Crusher worked frantically, her hands moving across medical instruments as she tried to stabilize his failing cybernetics. The Dark Lord lay on the biobed, his armor scorched from internal power surges, his chest panel flickering between red and amber warnings. "His neural interface is overloaded," Crusher reported to Picard, who stood nearby with Data and Troy. "The force expenditure burned through his cybernetic pathways like they were made of paper. I'm having to reroute entire systems just to keep his respiratory functions online." "Can you save him?" Picard asked quietly. "I don't know," Crusher admitted. "His body has been through trauma that should have killed him decades ago. The cybernetics are all that's keeping him alive, and they're degrading faster than I can repair them. If I had Imperial technology, maybe. But working with Federation equipment is like trying to perform surgery with the wrong instruments." Vader's helmet turned slightly toward them. "Doctor," his voice emerged weakly through the respirator. "If I die, my fighter contains Imperial data cores, encryption codes, tactical information, hyperspace routes. Destroy them. Don't let your Federation or your enemies access that knowledge." "You're not going to die," Crusher said firmly, adjusting another setting. "Not if I have anything to say about it." "Everyone dies, Doctor." Vader's breathing grew momentarily stronger. "The question is whether their death serves a purpose." The sickbay doors opened. Commander Kaval strode in, flanked by 2 Klingon warriors. He had beamed aboard directly, exercising the diplomatic privilege that came with the Federation-Klingon alliance. His eyes fixed immediately on Vader. "So," Kaval rumbled, "the warrior who drove off 6 Borg cubes lies here, dying like a wounded Targ. The stories spreading through subspace are already legendary, Vader. They say you attacked the Borg mind itself, that you made the collective fear." "Commander Kaval," Picard said sharply, "this is not the time." "This is exactly the time," Kavar interrupted. "The Klingon Empire does not forget warriors of such caliber. If Vader dies, he dies with honor. If he lives..." The Klingon commander moved closer to the biobed. "If he lives, the High Council would consider it an honor to offer him sanctuary. A warrior of his capabilities would be welcomed in the Empire. No restrictions, no philosophical debates about the rightness of using fear as a weapon. Only the freedom to fight as his nature demands." Vader's lenses focused on Kavar. "You offer me alliance? I offer you respect," Kavar corrected, "and a place among warriors who would appreciate your strength rather than fear it. The Federation coddles you, debates what to do with you, tries to reshape you into something gentle and civilized. The Klingon Empire would let you be what you are, a weapon of war without equal." "Commander," Troy interjected, "Lord Vader is injured. This is hardly the moment for recruitment." "It is the perfect moment," Kavar countered. "When a warrior faces death, he sees truth more clearly than at any other time. Vader, would you rather die here, surrounded by those who wish you were something else, or among those who would celebrate what you are?" Vader's breathing filled the silence. Finally, "I would rather not die at all, Klingon, but I appreciate the honesty of your offer. No pretense, no claims of redemption, just acceptance." "Then consider it," Kavar said. "When you recover, if you recover, the Empire awaits." He nodded to Picard with grudging respect. "Captain, we will be monitoring this situation closely." The Klingons departed. Picard moved to Vader's bedside. "He's wrong, you know. We're not trying to reshape you. We're trying to show you that there are alternatives to the darkness you've embraced." "Are you, Captain?" Vader's helmet tilted toward him. "Because I sense conflict in you. You claim to value all life. Yet you authorized me to board that Romulan ship, knowing I would use violence. You claim to reject fear as a weapon, yet you allowed me to terrorize the Borg collective. Your principles are flexible when circumstances demand it." Picard's jaw tightened. "I made difficult choices, but that doesn't mean..." "It means you understand," Vader interrupted, his voice strengthening slightly. "That's what troubles you, Captain. Deep down, you know that sometimes the moral high ground is a luxury. Sometimes survival requires compromise. Darkness." His breathing intensified. "You see in me what you fear in yourself, the capacity to do terrible things when necessary." Before Picard could respond, Data's comm badge chirped. "Bridge to Captain Picard. We have incoming transmissions, multiple Priority 1 channels, Starfleet Command, Romulan High Command, and the Borg Collective. I'm on my way." Picard looked at Vader. "This conversation isn't over." "No," Vader agreed, "but it has begun." On the bridge minutes later, Picard faced 3 simultaneous communications. Admiral Nechayev appeared stern and demanding. Commander Sella looked calculating and cautious. And the Borg transmission was simply text, cold and mechanical. The entity designated Vader has demonstrated capabilities that threaten collective harmony. The Borg withdraw assimilation attempts. This entity is designated incompatible. Future encounters will be avoided. They're afraid of him, Data observed with fascination. The Borg, beings who have assimilated thousands of species, are afraid of one individual. Admiral Nechayev's image leaned forward. "Captain Picard, I've read your reports. This Vader has attacked Romulan vessels, threatened Federation personnel, and now driven off the Borg through methods we don't understand and can't control. Starfleet Command wants him transferred to a secure facility immediately for study and containment." "Study and containment," Picard repeated carefully. "Admiral, He's a sentient being, not a weapon to be locked away. He's a threat, Nechayev countered. One who has demonstrated abilities that could destabilize the entire quadrant. We need to understand him, control him, or what, Admiral? Picard's voice turned cold. Eliminate him? He saved the Enterprise. He saved the crew. And you want to imprison him as thanks? Commander Silah's image cut in. How noble, Captain, but the Romulan Empire has a different perspective. Vader humiliated our forces, damaged our property, terrorized our personnel. We demand compensation, or we will take it by force. You tried that already, Picard reminded her. It didn't end well for you. Sella's expression darkened. We were unprepared. Next time will be different. All three transmissions argued simultaneously. Starfleet demanding containment, Romulans demanding compensation, Borg declaring Vader incompatible. The bridge crew watched their captain navigate three hostile factions, all focused on the Dark Lord in sickbay. Finally, Picard raised his hand for silence. Enough. Here is what's going to happen. Vader is under Federation protection as a displaced individual seeking a way home. He has committed no crimes under Federation law. His actions against the Romulans were self-defense. His actions against the Borg were survival. He will remain aboard the Enterprise until we find a solution to his situation. Captain, Nechayev began. Admiral, with all due respect, I'm invoking special circumstances protocols. The Prime Directive may not apply to warp-capable species, but the principle does. We don't imprison sentient beings for existing. If Starfleet wants to court-martial me for that position, I'll accept those consequences. Nechayev's eyes narrowed. This isn't over, Captain. No, Picard agreed. It's not. But it's also not going to be resolved by treating Vader as a threat to be contained, rather than a person to be understood. The transmissions ended. Riker approached slowly. You just defied Starfleet command and challenged the Romulan Empire, all for someone who threatened to kill you a few hours ago. Because it's the right thing to do, Picard said simply. Because the moment we start treating sentient beings as weapons or threats based solely on their capabilities, we've lost what makes the Federation worth defending. In sickbay, Vader felt the ship's political turbulence through the Force, felt Picard's conviction, felt the crew's uncertainty, felt the galaxy's eyes turning toward him with fear, fascination, and calculation. And for the first time since arriving in this strange universe, Darth Vader wondered, could someone like him truly find redemption? Or was he destined to remain what he had always been, a dark presence that changed everything around it, for better or worse? His son had believed redemption was possible. Perhaps in this new galaxy, Luke's faith wasn't entirely misplaced. Perhaps. 3 days later, Vader stood in his quarters, fully restored. Dr. Crusher had worked miracles, integrating Federation power cells into his cybernetics, upgrading his neural interfaces with isolinear technology, even improving his respiratory efficiency. He felt stronger than he had in years. The Force flowed through him with renewed vigor, adapting fully to this universe's quantum reality. The door chimed. Enter. Captain Picard stepped inside, carrying a datapad. Lord Vader, I wanted to speak with you before we reach Starbase 234. Several matters need resolution. Vader gestured to the seating area. They sat across from each other, the Dark Lord's imposing presence somehow less threatening in the quiet privacy of quarters rather than the charged atmosphere of the bridge. First, Picard began, Starfleet has granted you provisional asylum status. You're free to remain in Federation space, but you'll be monitored. No offense intended. It's standard protocol for beings of unusual capabilities. Acceptable, Vader replied. And the Romulans? Commander Sella has withdrawn her demands for compensation. After your display against the Borg, the Romulan High Command has decided that antagonizing you further serves no strategic purpose. They've classified you as a priority diplomatic contact, which means they'll try to recruit you through subtler means. Also acceptable. Vader's breathing filled the brief silence. The Klingons have already made their offer. The Romulans will make theirs. Your Federation continues to hope I'll embrace your ideals. Everyone wants to claim me as an ally or neutralize me as a threat. And what do you want? Picard asked directly. Vader stood, moving to the viewport. Stars streaked past at warp speed, different stars than those of his home galaxy, but beautiful in their own right. I want to go home, Captain. I want to know if my son survived, if the Empire fell, if the galaxy I left behind still exists, or if it's been consumed by civil war. His fist clenched, but I cannot. The spatial rift that brought me here was unique. Data confirmed that recreating it would require energy expenditures beyond even the Borg's capabilities. So you're trapped here, Picard said quietly. So I must adapt, Vader corrected. I am a survivor, Captain. I have survived slavery, the Jedi Order's destruction, my own transformation into this. He gestured to his armor. I will survive being stranded in another universe. The question is, what do I become while I'm here? Picard stood, joining him at the viewport. That's exactly the question I wanted to discuss. You have capabilities that could help countless people. Your tactical genius could assist in conflicts. Your force abilities could solve problems our technology can't touch. But you also have the capacity to cause tremendous harm. The choice of which path you take is yours alone. Is it? Vader challenged. Your Starfleet wants to study me. The Romulans want to weaponize me. The Klingons want to recruit me. Even your counselor Troy wants to heal me. Everyone has plans for Darth Vader. No one simply wants to let me be. Then tell me, Picard said, who do you want to be? Not what the Empire made you, not what the Emperor demanded, not what your pain and anger have shaped you into for 23 years. Who would Anakin Skywalker choose to become if given a fresh start? Vader's helmet turned toward him sharply. Anakin Skywalker died on Mustafar. I killed him myself. Your son didn't believe that, Picard countered. And I don't believe you believe it either. You could have killed me in my ready room when I challenged you. You could have let the Borg assimilate the Enterprise and saved only yourself. You could have allied with the Romulans or Klingons and begun building a new empire. But you didn't. Every choice you've made since arriving here suggests someone struggling between darkness and light. Vader stood silent for a long moment. Then, do you know what the dark side demands, Captain? Constant pain, constant anger, constant suffering. It is not sustainable without fuel, without injustice to rage against, without enemies to destroy, without loss to mourn. Here in your universe, I have no emperor to serve, no rebellion to fight, no reason to maintain the darkness except habit. His breathing intensified. Perhaps that's why the Force feels different here. It's not the physics. It's me. Without purpose for my anger, it becomes hollow. Then find a new purpose, Picard suggested. Use your abilities to help rather than harm. Work with us, not for us. Share your tactical knowledge to prevent wars rather than win them. Show this universe that even someone who has fallen as far as you have can choose to rise again. You make it sound simple, Vader said. It's not. The dark side doesn't release its hold easily. The moment I face a crisis, the moment someone threatens something I care about, the anger will return. The power will call to me. And I will answer because that's what I've trained myself to do for decades. Then we'll help you, Picard said firmly. The Federation isn't perfect, but we believe in second chances, third chances, as many chances as it takes for someone to find their better self. If you're willing to try, we're willing to support you." Vader turned back to the viewport, watching stars blur into streaks of light. In his mind, he saw his son's face from their last meeting, Luke Skywalker, young and idealistic, believing in redemption even when facing his father's lightsaber. Luke had refused to give up on Anakin. Perhaps Picard wouldn't either. "I make no promises, Captain," Vader said finally. "I am what 2 decades of darkness have made me. But," he paused, the words difficult, "but I will consider your offer. I will try to find some middle path between the monster I became and the fool I was. That is the best I can offer." "It's enough," Picard said. "For now, it's enough." A comfortable silence fell between them. 2 military commanders from different galaxies, different philosophies, different experiences, finding common ground in the understanding that everyone deserves the chance to choose who they become. "Captain," Vader said after a moment, "your Federation fascinates me. You maintain peace without fear. You unite diverse species without conquest. You explore the unknown without seeking to dominate it. In my galaxy, such idealism would be considered weakness. But here, you've built something that survives despite that idealism. Perhaps because of it. The Federation isn't built on idealism alone," Picard admitted. "It's built on the hard work of billions of beings choosing cooperation over conflict every single day. We fail sometimes, we make mistakes, but we keep trying to be better than we were. That's what separates us from empires built on fear. We believe progress is possible." "And you believe that progress is possible for me?" Vader asked. "I believe," Picard said carefully, "that you've already started. The fact that you're having this conversation, asking these questions, that's progress, Lord Vader. 6 days ago, you would have dismissed this entire discussion as weakness." Vader's mechanical breathing was the only response, but Picard sensed he wasn't wrong. The door chimed again. "Come," Vader called. Data entered, carrying a technical schematic. "Lord Vader, Captain, I have completed analysis of your TIE Advanced's hyperdrive system. While we cannot recreate the spatial rift that brought you here, I believe we can adapt some of your Imperial technology to enhance Federation capabilities. With your permission, of course." Vader studied the schematic. "You want to integrate Imperial and Federation technology, create something new from both." "Precisely," Data confirmed. "Your ion propulsion is more efficient than our impulse drives. Your deflector technology operates on different principles than our shields. Combined, we might create innovations neither civilization achieved alone. It would require your expertise and willing cooperation." Vader looked between Data and Picard. A collaboration, a partnership, a chance to build something rather than destroy. It was so foreign to everything he had done for decades that it felt almost impossible. Almost. "Very well, Lieutenant Commander," Vader said. "I will work with you. But understand, I do this not for your Federation, but because technology interests me. Because creating something new is preferable to simply surviving in this universe." "Your motivations are your own," Data replied diplomatically. "But the outcome benefits everyone. That is what matters." As Data departed with the schematic, Picard moved toward the door. "One more thing, Lord Vader. We're organizing a memorial service for the Borg drones who briefly regained consciousness during your attack before the collective reasserted control. Several hundred minds touched freedom for mere seconds before being imprisoned again. Counselor Troy believes we should honor that moment, however brief." Vader stood very still. "You want to hold a memorial for my enemies, for the victims trapped within your enemies," Picard corrected. For the individuals you gave momentary freedom to, even if you didn't intend it as an act of mercy. Your attack on the Borg Collective wasn't purely destructive, Lord Vader. It was also, inadvertently, compassionate. Those drones remembered who they were because of you. After Picard left, Vader stood alone in his quarters, processing everything. A memorial for Borg drones, collaboration with Federation scientists, asylum in a civilization that refused to use fear as a foundation. Second chances offered freely, without conditions or manipulations. This universe was so different from his own that it felt like living in a dream. Or perhaps, and this thought unsettled him more than he cared to admit, perhaps his own galaxy had been the nightmare, and he was only now waking up. Through the viewport, stars continued their endless journey. And somewhere among them, Darth Vader began to wonder what Anakin Skywalker might become. Starbase 234 loomed ahead, a massive Federation facility floating in the darkness of space. The Enterprise approached at impulse speed, its journey finally at an end. On the bridge, the senior staff assembled one final time with their unusual guest. Vader stood at his customary position near the view screen, his armor now bearing subtle modifications. Federation power couplings integrated into his chest panel, isolinear chips enhancing his neural interfaces, a comm badge attached to his chest plate. He was still Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, but he was also something new, a being caught between two universes, two philosophies, two possible futures. Admiral Nechaev's image appeared on the view screen. Captain Picard prepared to transfer Lord Vader to Starbase custody for diplomatic processing and— "Denied, Admiral," Vader interrupted, his voice calm but absolute. "I have accepted Captain Picard's offer of provisional asylum. I will cooperate with Federation authorities, but I will not be imprisoned or studied like a laboratory specimen. If Starfleet cannot accept those terms, I will seek alliance elsewhere." Nechaev's expression hardened. "You presume to dictate terms to Starfleet." "I presume nothing, Admiral. I state facts. Your Borg fear me. Your Romulans respect me. Your Klingons would welcome me. The Federation alone seems uncertain whether I'm an asset or a threat." His breathing filled the silence. "Choose quickly, before I make the choice for you." Picard stepped forward. "Admiral, Lord Vader has proven valuable to the Enterprise. He saved this ship and its crew. I recommend we accept his terms and allow him to continue working with us, under observation, but with dignity intact." Nechaev studied both men for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. "Very well. Provisional asylum is granted, with the condition that Vader remains assigned to the Enterprise under Captain Picard's supervision. You wanted him, Jean-Luc. He's your responsibility now." The transmission ended. Riker turned to Vader with a slight smile. "Congratulations. You've just become a permanent member of the Enterprise crew. I hope you don't regret it." "As do I, Commander," Vader replied. But there was something in his filtered voice, not quite warmth, but perhaps the beginning of acceptance. Across the quadrant, in the shadows of the neutral zone, Romulan analysts studied every second of the Enterprise's encounters. In the Klingon Empire, warriors traded stories of the Dark Lord who made the Borg flee. In the depths of space, the Borg Collective analyzed Vader's capabilities and added a new directive: Entity, Vader, avoid engagement. And aboard the Enterprise, Captain Jean-Luc Picard looked at the armored figure standing on his bridge and saw not a monster, not a weapon, not a threat, but a man being given a second chance to choose who he would become. Whether Darth Vader would embrace the light or remain in darkness, only time would tell. But for the first time in decades, Anakin Skywalker's ghost stirred within that black armor, whispering possibilities the Dark Lord had long since abandoned. The Federation would debate Vader's presence for years to come, Diplomats would argue, admirals would protest, philosophers would theorize. But the galaxy had changed the moment a spatial rift tore open and brought darkness into a universe built on hope. And somewhere, in the force that connected all things across all realities, Luke Skywalker's faith in redemption reached across dimensional barriers, a son's belief that even the darkest soul could find its way home. Live long and prosper. More stories await.